Is Deputy Clare Daly sharing her time?
Sharing with Deputy Collins, I'll take slightly more. I have to say I find this entire discussion just so utterly depressing from start to finish, and I think we have to start by reaffirming, it shouldn't be necessary, but again it is, that our screening service is a public health initiative which saves lives. It doesn't guarantee that you're not going to get cancer. It doesn't guarantee that if you get cancer that it's going to be picked up. There's no guarantee that your life is going to be saved by it. But it massively, massively, massively ups the odds. And, you know, it's not good enough for us to pay lip service to that and then come in and eviscerate the service with non-evidence-based comments as if the two can be tallied and we're all on the one side. Because everybody in here, on all sides of the House, supported and egged on by the media, have created a situation now where across the country the trust of women in our public screening system has been seriously eroded and seriously damaged. And trust, when you want somebody to uptake that programme, is an incredibly serious situation. So we have to be very upfront about that at the start. And even the fact that we're here tonight is, to me, indicative of that. We're here tonight because about 10 days ago, this was the big scandal and everybody was looking for it all time. And of course now it's moved off stage. It's the Children's Hospital, so there's no one here, no one gives a toss. And they don't give a toss because the print masters and the media don't give a toss either. They're not prepared to do any serious scrutiny around these matters just for a cheap headline. The latest scandal, as it is, about rewriting out to these 4,600 women as a result of the delay in checking for the HPV in one lab outside the debate. And we have the media going, how are those women supposed to feel? Well, I'm in the middle of the screening process and I don't feel all that great about this. Nobody does when their health is being questioned. But you know what they should feel? Isn't it great that a retest is being done, that a quality check has picked up a weakness in the system that in probably normal terms, and I have heard nothing to contradict this, wouldn't have batted an eyelid because, and I haven't heard any evidence to the contrary, that the negligible risk in it is probably but isn't it good, because that's what it says, if the retest does show something different, and I'm sure people will be sick if they get a letter saying that, but isn't it great that they'll know that and the chance of an intervention comes in? So, to be honest with you, I'm a bit sick about the way all of this has been dealt with, because that issue has been conflated then with the backlog and the delays in the Minister's decision to have a retest. And I think if anybody is even half honest, they'll know that if he hadn't offered that, there'd be an absolute avalanche from the media and the world in general looking for a retest. So everybody has to take responsibility for this, because it is a fact from what I have seen that medical advice said don't do the retest. It's going to cause problems to our system. The points have been made earlier on. That's a fact. And we have to take the consequences of that. And to me, the biggest consequence, I think, is that it has potentially delayed the introduction of the HPV screening, because when you read the responses from the department in that regard, it's real civil service speak. They talk about, I can't remember, but they needed to stabilise the programme, and there were operational challenges during the year, which means, look, we were dealing with this bloody crisis, we couldn't get on with the job of making the system better. That should be our key job, and I want to hear more in relation to that. 19 countries do screening, 12 of them do audits. Of those 12, only 7 use the results. Only 1 has a policy of telling people. So we're different in that. That's not necessarily a worse thing, that's a better thing. Privatisation has caused this, has it? Well, I haven't seen any evidence that it has. Maybe it does, but I haven't seen any evidence that it does. We're all very fond of coming in here and quoting Scally. Scally didn't say, don't continue to use the labs. He did not say that, and I have not seen any evidence that says the rates are any different. It is the case that the US labs are operate to a different standard. But it's not necessarily a lesser standard. Again, I haven't seen evidence that says it's a lesser standard. Honolulu is the capital of Hawaii, I thought, which was a state in America. Now, I don't think America is the be-all and end-all, and enough of my Dáil record would say that. But it's not Ethiopia, and I'm not being derogatory, but it's not a developing country. It's state-of-the-art colleges, all the rest, high medical stuff. So I think we have to be very careful. I don't know. We know that a lot of people are suffering because of uncertainties and because of misinformation around this issue. The 221 cases that are there and the points about litigation, because I think this is key, I do want to make points. At the moment, these are claims. We don't know. I'm not saying that the situation isn't any traumatic. All of these people have got cancer. We know that. But we don't know how many of them were caused by normal, problems, the false negatives, or how many were caused by negligence, how many were so glaring that they should know. We don't know that. We should know that. I'm very concerned, and I would like the Minister to deal with the issues. Why the review by the obstetricians and gynaecologists, why hasn't that been done? We should know, is our rate any different than any others at this stage? That does need to be addressed. But the issues we really need to deal with are the ones that are in our control. And they are the two that Scally did flag as the biggest problem in this regard. And the first is open disclosure and non-open disclosure. And it's all very well for the Minister to come in here now in February and tell us that now we're going to have a headset bill and patient information and safety bill is going to be delivered this year. Well, I was told by the Taoiseach last May that it was going to be delivered last year on foot of this evidence. But it would have been delivered the year before if the amendments that we had succeeded in getting in the Justice Committee to demand mandatory open disclosure, which we got in, if it hadn't been taken out by the ministers and acting at with these department officials in the Department of Health and the Department of Justice overturning that. We would have had it already. If we're serious about this, that's key. The second and last point is the issue of legal costs. We need to get into a situation in other countries where people don't sue over delayed diagnostics called by false negatives, because they have a much better system than ours. We need to look at those lessons, and I think it's really regrettable the way in which the entire issue has been handled from start to finish.